Yeah, baby. Hey, everybody. Dan Schinder here with the amazing, legendary Chris Welch over there on this side this time. And coming to us all the way from England. And I'm in Arizona, east of Phoenix, up in the mountains. And thanks for joining us, everybody. So the way this is going to work is we are public on the Drum Talk TV and Yes Shift respective YouTube and Facebook channels. We're going to be here for about 15 minutes or so. And the members are able to log in to what we call spatial. And it's a 3D virtual environment where we've got a screen that Chris and I are on there. And then there's a billboard with instructions in there and another little button that says Ask Chris. And you could press that and it'll take you backstage here where Chris and I am. And then you'll put your question in the private chat just so I can preview it first and give me your name. And I'll probably see your name on the screen too, folks, and be able to give you a turn to be up on the screen where I am to ask Chris questions. So that's how it'll work. And I will repeat that a couple times for newcomers and things like that. And just going to check the comments. Okay, great. We're off and running. But first, before we get into letting people in and whatnot, I want to give a little introduction to Chris for those who have been maybe living under a rock for 60, 70 years. So Chris is a journalist and an author in the music space. He wrote for Musicians Only. He wrote for Melody Maker, which I'm sure all of you have heard of, even if you're not in the UK. Kerrang, an awesome heavy metal, hard rock music magazine. He wrote a book on Keith Emerson. He wrote a book on Jimi Hendrix, his biography. He wrote the wonderful book Close to the Edge, the story of Yes. And he wrote the book on John Bonham, The Thunder of Drums with Jeff Nichols. And we're just thrilled to have you here, Chris. And, you know, we were talking before we went live. I remembered back when Steve and I had you on the show. I think he reminded me that was like it feels like 6 months ago. Steve said it was like a year and a half ago.
Oh, yes.
Hard to read a believer 2 years ago. Yeah. And you have your scrapbook with you, and you were looking for your Joe Morello article, which, if I recalled from the interview, was your first assignment when you joined Melody Maker. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, I have it with me now.
Yeah, can we see that?
Yeah, sure.
It's printed on papyrus, right, or deerskin or something.
That's the Doomsday Book or the Bayeux Tapestry. You know.
How old were you when you got that gig? That part I don't remember.
I was about 24, I think. Yeah, I'd been a reporter before on a local newspaper, and I kept writing about our local bands, like the Rolling Stones, for example. They were one of our bands.
Wow. And we're talking like 1966, right?
Yeah, no, that's earlier than that, actually. 64 was when I joined.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we talked about that. I was a year old.
Yeah. This is the article. I can get it in the right position. Well, that's the interview I did with Joe Morello. It's falling apart now. The papyrus is falling apart. I'm not falling apart.
There we go. You're together. Yeah. There's right. Joe Morello. And for those who don't know, if you're a jazz fan, you would know that Joe Morello played on the amazing piece of music that really was maybe one of the first not pop up commercialized pieces. Dave Brubeck's Take 5, and there's a wonderful drum solo, and there's a few live versions of this and a televised version video. And Joe was truly a master. What was it like meeting him and doing that first interview for Melody Maker?
Well, it was a great honor for me because he was one of my heroes. Yes, I loved his drumming. Well, he advanced drumming single-handed virtually, you know, so much taste and technique and adaptability, different time signatures, of course, hence Take 5. All the drummers in the world started to run, how do we play in 5/4?
Yeah.
But what happened was I was working on the local newspaper, and people said, well, you're always writing about bands and musicians, and you should join Melody Maker, which was the big weekly music paper. in Britain,
Mhm.
established in 1926, I think it was.
Wow, I didn't know it was that old. Wow.
Yeah, it was called the Bible of the music industry because it covered everything from Louis Armstrong all the way through Glenn Miller in the 40s to bring,
Wow.
and then rock and roll, Elvis Presley, and then of course the Beatles and the Stones. So it was always adapting, and I read it every week, and I thought, God, it'd be great to work for this paper. And I sent them some cuttings, a story I'd written about the Stones, and they said, "Okay, come up for an interview." I went for an interview. Their office was in Fleet Street, where all the newspapers were. And they said, "Okay, well, we'd like you to try and interview Joe Morello. None of our staff play the drums, so and I hear you play the drums, so you'd be the ideal man to do it." And I was a bit nervous. I hadn't got the job yet, of course. So
Okay.
they said he's in a hotel Sunday night doing a drum clinic. So I went along, and I managed to catch hold of him after the clinic. And he was very polite and friendly and nice. And we sat down and did a great interview. And he came out with this remark, and he said, "You don't have to be an idiot to play the drums, you know."
I love that. That's funny. Yeah, because us drummers do kind of get a bad rap sometimes. And I noticed in the promo video that you made for us, you're sitting next to a set of drums, right?
Yes, that's my son's. Well, we share it actually. My son's a drummer too, and it's it's an electronic drum kit. Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course the advantage of that is you can play at home with the headphones on and not
Yeah.
bother anybody. Yeah. I used
Yeah.
to play when I first played drums. I lived in my parents' house, and we couldn't understand why the neighbours kept moving. As
You
you
know,
playing the drums, yeah.
going back to Melody Maker, I think of all the interviews I've heard, all the, like on the radio or TV or in film, all the musician biographies I've read, things like that. I don't think there's hardly one band out there where there wasn't at least one member that says, and I saw an ad in Melody Maker, when you look at Phil Collins, Steve Hackett, maybe Rick Wakeman, just so many musicians found each other in those flourishing days of the 60s and early 70s through Melody Maker.
That's true. Yes,
Makes it even more legendary of a publication, right?
it was quite extraordinary because the regular feature, the one that most musicians bought the paper for anyway, never mind what I was writing about, but it was musicians wanted column. And
Yeah.
I'm still amazed at the number of groups that got together through an advert in Musicians Only, in Musicians Wanted. Classic tag. Be about 3 lines, And the funny thing was they used to say things like, "No time wasters, no breadheads, no characters, just want a regular musician." And when you think back, actually, what you really needed in a band was a breadhead, a character, and a time waster.
Right. And a great drummer.
Yeah, somebody with a personality.
Yeah. Awesome. Danielle Major, who is our chief marketing officer at Drum Talk TV, who built our membership platform, says, "Hey guys, so hey Danielle, she's having a baby soon, so like not today though, I don't think, but pretty soon." And then Adam Parrish says hello, greetings from the United Kingdom, and as does Dave Watkinson, says hi Chris, and we'd love for some people to jump into the membership portion, so you can click the button in the theater there and come backstage here where I am and where Steve's running things in the background. And I'll put you on screen to ask Chris a question. If my wife is watching, I know that Enja happens to be a huge jazz fan, very familiar with Dave Brubeck's work, as well as everybody going back to Ella Fitzgerald. As an artist, she's done a lot of artwork that is a series based on Josephine Baker, who, of course, was an amazing jazz singer in the 20s, 30s, and moved to France and adopted like 30 kids or something like that.
Wow.
So Enja very well could have a question for you. And Danielle Major says, I'd love to hear an awesome Led Zeppelin story. Well, Danielle, do you want to go into our theater and I'll put you on the screen? That you know how it works. You helped design all this. And you can ask Chris a question, maybe for a particular Led Zeppelin story, if you want. If you're being super shy today, well, Danielle, why don't you go in the arena? Because if I take your question there, then I got to take everyone's question there. And that's not how we're doing this, as you know. You helped design this. She does have a question, but I'm going to see if she'll go backstage here so I can put her on screen with you and ask the question. And then anybody else, same thing. Stephen has put links in the comments where you can join. And we have a crazy special for less than a 6-pack of beer. For less than a combo meal at a fast food restaurant. You can become a member, come backstage, ask Chris a question on screen. She says she's on the go. So I'll ask a question. I know you wrote about John Bonham. I traveled with Led Zeppelin a bit.
Yeah.
I think, like, for how long did you travel?
Well, I was very lucky. I got on very well with their manager, Peter Grant. And he was... What happened was I saw them playing a gig in the Lyceum Ballroom in London, and they were incredible. And I remembered that the Lyceum Ballroom back in 1917 was bombed by a Zeppelin, a real one. They flew over from Germany and dropped a bomb on the theatre. And
wow!
My intro was in 1917. The Lyceum Ballroom was bombed by a Zeppelin, and in 1969 it was bombed again by Led Zeppelin.
It's really, if you think about it, well, you don't have to, but for everybody watching, it's kind of extraordinary that Peter Grant befriended you, because he was not fond of, quote, the media. So how did that relationship warm up, and how did you get in Peter Grant's pocket and have his ear and the access that you had?
I think I made him laugh. I think that was the thing. Yeah.
Oh.
And I loved Zeppelin right from the start. And at that time, there was a lot of criticism of the band. Some magazines complained about they kept calling them heavy metal, which they weren't really at all. And they wouldn't accept them. Then they called them a hype and said, if they dare say that they signed a big deal with Atlantic Records and got lots of money, that was considered, not brilliant, because everybody was down on the ideas of corporate rock and all that sort of thing.
Right.
So they had a lot of bad criticism, but I just listened to the music and thought they were incredible. First time I saw them was at the Marquee Club in London, to an audience of about 50 people. And,
gosh, I've seen the pictures. That's amazing.
About 50 or 60. It was a small club. But I was standing next to a drummer called Mark Ashton, who played with Rare Bird, and we saw John Bonham playing, and Mark was so astounded by his drumming. He said, "Oh my God, it's so heavy. I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up drumming." He became a singer.
Yeah, and that's two ways that you could take it. Either want to just put lighter fluid on everything and roast it, or you take it as inspiration. And I remember I saw Led Zeppelin in 1977 at the LA Forum, and it was amazing. And it changed my life. I wanted to be an oceanographer until I saw that, and I was already playing drums. But when I saw Alan White, that I saw it from the 6th row, 1978, the Tormato tour in the round. And it was like, at first I had that feel like, man, I'm just going to burn everything. How am I ever going to get to that? Not that I didn't feel that way with John, but then you turn it around, turn it into inspiration. And he's one of the John Bonham, Phil Collins, Alan White, and Neil Peart are probably the 4, and Carl Palmer, the 5 biggest drummers I've spent a lot of time and energy emulating their playing. And there's so many more as well, of course. Wonderful. But what is something that you
I could tell you about going to New York to see for the first time. That was a big experience for me. And as I say, I got on well with Peter Grant, and because he liked my review of the band, and I got a phone call one day saying, "How would you like to come to New York and see Led Zeppelin play at Carnegie Hall?" I thought, wow. Never been to America, never been on a jumbo, and that wasn't a jumbo, but 707, I think. And flew first class with Led Zeppelin to New York, and stayed at the Hilton. that's a story, but I'll tell you later about that.
Okay.
And they were the first, I think, certainly the first British rock band, or maybe the first ever rock band to play Carnegie Hall, the home of classical music and jazz.
Wow. Yeah.
And when we got to the theatre, after meeting up and having a meal and checked into the Hilton, and then we went to the gig, and Peter Grant said, "I'm sorry, we haven't got a ticket for you. We forgot to buy you a ticket." I said, "Oh no, I come all this way." He said, "It's okay, you can stand on the stage." So I stood in the wings next to the band, and also the
What a bummer.
So I was standing right next to Bonham's drum kit, which was terrific.
Wow.
And John said to me, he said, during the sound check, he said, "I've got to be good tonight." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, this is where Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa played."
That's right.
Yeah.
Two of his biggest influences. Yeah.
He said they did their drum battles here. And of course, I had all the records of those gigs. Remember, Gene Krupa with Sing, Sing, Sing played on that stage.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got on, the gig started and the audience went berserk. I've never seen an audience reaction. Of course, at the Marquee Club, they were just standing there quietly clapping, well done, British audience, very reserved. And then in New York, the kids were going berserk, jumping up, shaking hands with Robert. And anyway, it came to John's drum solo, and it was, he played an incredible solo. And I realized he was playing Buddy Rich's snare drum single stroke roll, the one that he used to finish the solos with.
Yeah.
He was playing just like Buddy Rich. And I thought, oh my God, he's doing that for me.
Oh.
Nobody else in the audience would realize what he's doing.
Yeah, that is neat. I have a question for you that stems from Danielle's question, and while you answer it, I will be present, but I'm going to text a message to Steve in the background. Did you get one-on-one time with John Bonham, and or with the time you spent with Led Zeppelin? Is there something you picked up about John that maybe most people might not know about? Do you have something to kind of share about him as the man? Not just, we all know him as the drummer and everything, but did he share anything with you, or did you get any anecdotal stuff that you could share, I guess, about John?
Yes, because I knew him in the early days, and I usually sat with him on flights, and he was very frightened of flying. He didn't enjoy it at all. And I remember we were flying to Germany, to Berlin, I think. Anyway, he was very sick. He got up and ran off and was horribly sick, and he had terrible stage fright as well. So we have this image of John Bonham as the big, powerful man playing powerful drum solos, a member of the the group that later became notorious for its antics. But he was actually a very quiet, he was quite a quiet, normal bloke. I remember we went to a nightclub together, and it was full of drag acts and drug users, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, there's nowhere a normal bloke like you and me can have a pint of beer." He said he was complaining about the wildlife. So he's very down to earth, very generous, and very nice personality. That's a John Bonham I knew. Yeah.
Wow, very interesting. Before we go just into the spatial environment for our members, I want to play a video to show people what our membership site is all about if you're not familiar with it. So here's a little promo right here. This will take less than a minute, folks. Check this out and become a member.
Drum Talk TV Brilliance is for you if you want to enjoy exclusive live stream concerts, want to participate in fan Q&As with big artists, want to play fun music-themed game shows online with a chance to win prizes, you're a drummer and want videos posted of you playing to your favorite music without it being muted or pulled, and so much more. And it's only $12 a month or $120 a year. That's less than a combo meal at most fast food restaurants. That's an insane deal. That's insane. It's not just for drummers. It's for all music fans.
Yeah. Easy. It's so easy a drummer can do it. I mean, wait, did I just say that? All right. So, folks, we'd love for you to join. We have the Q&A that we're going to continue with Chris in the membership site. And we've got some other folks scheduled, and folks that you would know and folks that we're waiting for date confirmations on. Just off the top of my head, we have Ron Riddle, we have Casey Grillo. We're waiting on, I know there's someone I'm forgetting. We recently had Rudy Sarzo from Ozzy, Whitesnake, and Quiet Riot. And quite a few others. We've had Derek Shulman on before of Gentle Giant fame, and of course went on to be one of the biggest record executives ever, right, Chris? What a great guy, and such great music he and his band brought. So we're going to go do that, and we'll see who's in the spatial environment to ask questions. And folks, we'd love for you to join. And we have twice a month music-themed game shows where you can win prizes and takes a breath because there's more. We have a drumming challenge once a month where we give away 3 gift certificates to people's favorite music store, no matter where you are in the world. This month it's Phil Collins for his birthday month. Next month it's Neil Peart, and we got other greats coming up to honor with drumming challenges that are a lot of fun. So, folks, on social we're going to say goodbye, and we'll be only bothering the people who are members now. Thanks, everybody. Let's see. I'm going to take